Welcome back to The Explainer. Have you ever actually stopped to look at a fish breathing perfectly underwater? Or a bird soaring around with hollow bones? Or a polar bear thriving in the freezing Arctic and just marveled at how perfectly adapted they are to this planet? I mean, every single species on Earth has spent millions of years seamlessly, beautifully adapting to its environment. And then there's us. We literally burn in our own sunlight. Our spines are constantly falling apart. We are, by all accounts, nature's most awkward fit.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want to ask you a truly bizarre question. It sounds like something straight out of a late-night science fiction movie, but it's actually an incredibly fascinating lens to explore our biology through. What if the reason we don't seem to fit on Earth is because we're actually not from here? Let's use this wild hypothesis to frame some of our everyday biological annoyances, starting with something you probably have sitting in your bathroom cabinet right now.
Take sunscreen, for example. It is literally a chemical paste we had to invent and smear all over our bodies just so we can go outside safely. If you look at lizards, or dogs, or elephants, they spend their entire lives under the exact same sun we do. Their scales, their fur, their pigmentation, it's all perfectly calibrated for our star. Our skin? Not so much. We have to artificially protect ourselves because, quite frankly, our own sun is actively trying to kill us.
And it gets worse when you look at our skeletons. 80%. That is the staggering percentage of humans who are going to experience chronic back pain at some point in their lives. When 4 out of 5 members of a species share the exact same structural failure, you really have to stop blaming the individual and start looking at the blueprint. Our spines are essentially horizontal bridges that evolution haphazardly tried to just stand upright. The discs between our vertebrae compress under gravity in ways they were just never ever originally meant to handle.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how strangely retrofitted we are. Just take a horse, for example. A horse gives birth in about 30 minutes, and that foal is literally standing up and walking around within the hour. Compare that to human childbirth. It is incredibly dangerous. Our babies' heads are so massive they barely fit through the birth canal, and once they're born, a human baby can't even hold up its own head for months. We show up completely useless and utterly helpless for years, which is totally unlike any other mammal on the planet. Then you've got our immune system. Roughly 30% of the global population has allergies. Now, your immune system has one primary job, right? To protect you. But in humans, this incredibly complex defense system regularly goes to war against things that are totally, completely harmless. Pollen, peanuts, dust, cat hair. It's an absolute absurdity. Either evolution made a serious mistake, or our bodies are calibrated for somewhere else entirely.
But the physical stuff, that's really only half the story. Mentally, we are completely paralyzed by our own mortality. Dogs and dolphins don't lie awake at 2 a.m. having existential crises. Yet we build entire civilizations and massive philosophies around what happens to us when we die. And ecologically, every other animal is part of a closed ecosystem loop. But us, we clear-cut forests, we poison rivers, we operate completely outside the rules. If you observe us objectively, we behave exactly like an invasive species destroying an environment we weren't built for.
Section 1. The Alien Blueprint Theory. Did we actually come from somewhere else? Let's look at the actual scientific hypothesis that questioned our origins. Way back in 1973, a concept called directed panspermia was proposed. This is the mind-bending idea that life on Earth didn't start here, but was deliberately seeded by an intelligent civilization from somewhere else in the galaxy. And here's the kicker. This wasn't proposed by some fringe internet theorist. This was Francis Crick, the man who won the Nobel Prize for decoding the structure of DNA. He looked at the biological record and basically concluded that the timeline of life on Earth just did not add up for him.
Let's walk through exactly why he thought the timing was so suspicious. Step 1. Earth forms about 4.5 billion years ago as this completely molten hellscape. Yet Step 2, complex organic chemistry appears just 700 million years later. In geological time, that is basically overnight. But is it actually possible for life to travel here? Well, look at Step 3. In 1969, the Murchison meteorite crashed in Australia, carrying over 90 different amino acids, the literal building blocks of life. And Step 4, tardigrades, those little microscopic water bears, survived the freezing vacuum of space and literally crashed onto the moon in 2019. So, we have hard, undeniable evidence that organic life can actually survive hitching a ride through space.
All of this compiled evidence actually led ecologist Dr. Ellis Silver to publish a book in 2013 called Humans Are Not From Earth. He compiled all our bizarre physiological quirks, the sunburns, the bad backs, the incredibly dangerous childbirth, and even the weird fact that our natural circadian rhythms seem to be slightly off-kilter from a standard 24-hour cycle, and he argued that these are direct proof we are from somewhere else entirely.
Section 2. Evolutionary mismatch, the scientific pivot. But here's where it gets complicated. As incredibly fun and fascinating as the alien theory is, mainstream biology has developed a really powerful counterargument. It's called evolutionary mismatch. This is a biological concept explaining that our physical traits evolved for a very specific past environment, and they simply haven't caught up to our current reality. This is the scientific framework used to systematically dismantle the alien theory, and honestly, when you see it applied, it makes a ton of sense.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how evolutionary biology rationally resolves our physical flaws through the slow, grinding pace of evolution. Take sunburn. The alien theory says we aren't built for this sun. But mismatch theory, it explains that our ancestors shed their fur so they could sweat and run for hours and hours on the hot African savanna. Sunburn is literally just the price we pay for that incredible endurance. Back pain? We didn't evolve for lower gravity. We just very recently started walking upright, so we're essentially walking around with a prototype spine. And childbirth? It's what scientists call the obstetric dilemma. Evolution was trying to give us massive, brilliant brains, while simultaneously keeping our pelvis narrow enough to walk upright. It's a structural compromise.
Even our absolutely terrible, environmentally destructive habits can be explained by this mismatch. We are wired for the savanna, but living in a modern world. We evolved in tiny hunter-gatherer groups where natural resources felt basically endless. So our brains are hardwired for short-term survival and immediate reward, not for managing an entire planet's hyper-complex ecosystem. We just got way too much power, way too fast for our ancient ancestral wiring to handle.
Section 3. The true human mystery, acceleration. So that settles it, right? Case closed. We're just mismatched Earthlings. Well, not quite. There is one genuine mystery that modern biology still profoundly struggles to fully explain. Take dolphins, for example. They've been swimming around for 50 million years. They are incredibly, undeniably smart, yet they have never built a single tool. Chimpanzees figured out how to use simple sticks 4 million years ago, and they've remained pretty much completely stagnant ever since. Compare that to us. In just 2 million years, humans went from banging sharpened rocks together to splitting the atom and building nuclear weapons.
And just look at the sheer, terrifying exponential curve of our recent progress. 200 years ago, we didn't even have railroads. 125 years ago, we invented airplanes. 75 years ago, we began exploring space. 35 years ago, the entire internet is born. It is absolutely wild. Nothing in the entire 4 billion year history of life on this planet has ever accelerated like that. Nothing even comes close.
Now, science definitely has theories for this unbelievable speed. Some point to complex language development. Others say the invention of cooking unlocked way more calories, which fueled massive brain growth. Some highlight a very specific mutation in the FOXP2 gene that enabled complex, nuanced speech. And others point to our unique ability to teach and stack knowledge across generations. But while all of these undoubtedly played a huge role, none of them fully 100% explain how we went from being a regular prey animal to running the entire planet in what amounts to a geological blink of an eye.
See, modern biology handles the weird physical stuff about our bodies perfectly, but the full picture of our minds and our rapid, almost explosive ascent remains a huge puzzle. And that leaves us with this final, truly provocative thought. If we're not from here, we've been trying to find our way home for 200,000 years. You know, maybe our existential dread and our absolute obsession with looking up at the stars and building rockets isn't some weird biological flaw at all. Maybe it's the ultimate mystery of our species. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this sparked your curiosity, and I will see you next time.